Hi, I'm Ross from Airsoft, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Lancer Tactical Gen 4 Valiant Edition AEGs. So Lancer Tactical has been manufacturing replicas for quite some time, and they've released their Gen 4 models. We are taking a look specifically at their collaboration with Eddie Valiant, the YouTuber. We have three different models. We have the 7-inch version and the 9.5-inch version, which both come in black. And then we have the 13-inch version, which comes in tan. So we're going to be taking a look at the Gen 4 Valiant Edition models. I will say that Lancer Tactical has a very robust line of Gen 4 replicas, which have a lot of similar internals and externals to these, but these have some key differences. So before picking up your Gen 4 Lancer, look into what's coming with your replica and what all is included. Today, I'm going to be talking about the Valiant Edition so you can see what to expect out of the box for these replicas. I keep calling this a 7-inch version. It is the 7.5-inch version. Don't get confused by me. This is 7.5, 9.5, and 13-inch. I know I keep calling it a 7-inch. I just don't know numbers very well. It is 7.5 inches for this guy here. So we're going to talk about the externals of these replicas and just go tip to butt on everything that you get when it comes out of the box. To begin, we have a flash hider up here. It's going to be a 14mm counterclockwise thread underneath. It is a plastic orange tip that is pinned on there and most likely glued. So with a little bit of drilling and a heat gun, you can get that removed. And then you will have your 14mm threads up there for access. And then we have the tubular handguard. It is a relatively large handguard in the sense that it is a very wide opening at the end. It is built for your mock suppressor or tracer unit or whatever other flash hider you would like to be somewhat integrated into the handguard. It's going to sit a little bit further back there and be a bit of a more streamlined look. So they've designed this handguard to fit most suppressors that are going to go onto your threads up here, which is a design that I personally really enjoy. We have a single piece outer barrel as well as a monolithic Picatinny rail on top. Your replica comes with a set of Flaxion flip-up sights in the box, which can just be attached to your replica if you desire to do so. And then a big difference between the models of your 7-inch, 9.5-inch, and 13-inch is going to be your outer barrel length as well as your handguard length. So that is where those inches are coming in. This is a 7-inch handguard, you have a 9.5-inch handguard, and then you have a 13-inch handguard. So keep that in mind. That is going to be the main difference between these models. There's a bit of FPS difference as well as your inner barrel length difference, obviously. So we're going to talk about that when we get to more of the internals. But just keep in mind that the main difference you're seeing between the three, besides the color change, is going to be your handguard and barrel length. And we have a billet style receiver made of metal alloy. It has all of your Lancer Tactical trademarks as well as the Valiant logo on the side magwell to really kind of stamp off that this is a collaboration between Eddie Valiant and Lancer Tactical. So then as far as your controls go, we do have an ambidextrous selector switch, you have an ambidextrous mag release, and then you do have your bolt catch, which is going to be single-sided only, not ambidextrous, but then you have an ambidextrous charging handle. So this replica is set up for a left or right shooter configuration. You can kind of go back and forth on it with those ambidextrous controls that are on there. So it is a functional bolt catch. If you pull back your charging handle, it will lock the bolt back, allowing you to adjust your hop up, and then hitting that bolt catch on the side will send it back forward. So that all works as intended and is a pretty cool feature for any replica. You have the flat trigger here, which is kind of to fit the style of more of a speed build. I personally don't really have a preference on my trigger profile, but if that is something that you enjoy, this is coming with the flat trigger installed already. And then you have a texturized polymer grip down here, which allows for a pretty good handhold. I think it is a very comfortable pistol grip on this replica. We have an ambidextrous sling plate in the back here. I'll say one of my gripes with this replica is that there is no QD sling plate up front on the handguard. So that is something you would have to attach either through M-LOK or the Picatinny top rail, but you do have the option on the back for a 1-point or something of that sort. Personally, I prefer 2-point slings, so I would find a mounting solution for the front. Just one of the small nitpicks I have on the externals of this replica. Coming back a little further, we have our Delta stock with the rubberized butt pad. I think that this stock is a very nice feature for most replicas. I'm not a fan of the bulkier crane style stocks. I will say as a negative that you are losing battery space when you are running a stock like this. You only have the buffer tube as battery space, which can come to a bit of a challenge if you already have batteries. If you are buying a battery for this, it's not too hard to find one that'll fit in there. So just keep that in mind when picking up your replica, that this crane stock is not giving you very much battery room at all. Additionally, we have a tab back here. If you push it down, it will take off this rubberized buttstock and allow you to access your battery, so you don't have to remove the stock entirely to get to it. I will say that the top tab that locks this butt plate on is a relatively weak piece. It is a piece of plastic that is kind of bending and clicking in. I can see that it's probably going to fail in a matter of time. It is not something that is going to hold up to a lot of use, and I especially know that when taking a battery in and out of replicas after every game day, it is going to be a piece that gets a lot of wear and tear. So that is something I would say to keep an eye on, is your back tab for the stock. Thankfully, it's not a core piece of the replica. If it breaks or something happens to it, finding a replacement or replacing the stock entirely is always an option. But it is something I felt was necessary to note, because it does begin to wear down just after putting a battery in even a few times. And then we have the 140 round mid cap. It is a high speed mid cap, so it should keep up with the rate of fire that this guy's able to produce. And then we have both of the body pins here on the actual lower receiver. If you pop those, you can open it up and reveal all of your internals, which is what we'll get into right now. You have a CNC rotary hop-up. This hop-up is going to need to be adjusted right out of the box. I did a chrono test with the 13-inch version and had around 60 to 70 FPS with BBs practically rolling out of the barrel. I did some hop-up adjustments and I got that FPS up far significantly. I had the same issue on the 9.5-inch version. The 7-inch version chronoed fine out of the box with the hop-up totally off. I'm not too sure why this is. I know that there are certain other products that usually have this problem, typically gas blowbacks. I don't see it often with AEGs, but just a key note, I would definitely adjust that hop up immediately. Make sure that you are getting your BBs flying straight before even doing a chrono test. That is just my note on the hop up. Adjust it before firing your replica. And then we have a 6.03 millimeter Type bore barrel, and there are 3 different barrel lengths depending on your replica. On the 7.5-inch version, you'll be getting a 195 millimeter barrel. On the 9.5 version, you will be getting a 290 millimeter barrel, and then on the 13-inch version, you will be getting a 315 millimeter barrel. So those are the differences in inner barrel length between the 3 replicas. Obviously, your longer version, you're getting a longer barrel, and vice versa, you are getting a shorter barrel on the shorter version. Nothing too surprising there, but just keep in mind that is a 6.03 millimeter Type bore barrel that is being installed into that CNC rotary hop-up. So the other big upgrade internally with the Gen 4s from Lancer is going to be the MOSFET. These Valiant Edition rifles have a Gate Aster 2 programmable ETU installed in them out of the box. Other Gen 4 models also have different MOSFETs. Some are the gates, and then there are other models as well, so just make sure you double check what is coming included in yours out of the box. But the Valiant Editions do have the Gate Aster 2 installed. So this is allowing for a lot of programmability. It's allowing for you to connect via Bluetooth and do Bluetooth programming. There is a lot you can do with the Gate Asters. We have a video discussing all of the programming settings on them. I definitely recommend checking it out if this is a replica you're picking up, so that you know how to tune your replica to the best of your abilities. I will say that Lancer Tactical says to make sure you adjust your active braking setting. It is actively on at 100%, which means that every time you fire a BB, there's going to be a reverse polarity charge going back into your motor to stop it from overspinning. Typically, this is fine to have at a certain degree, but at 100%, it tends to heat your handguard up a lot. It really heats that motor up. And depending on the climate and how hard you're pushing this thing can cause problems. So we recommend setting your active braking to adaptive. That way it enacts and uses itself whenever it is needed and not 100% all of the time. But as I said, I really do encourage you to check out our video on programming the gate ETUs and really learning all of the different ins and outs of how those MOSFETs function so that you can get this thing tuned exactly how you like it. Now, we have a metal tooth piston and 16-to-1 gears. Supporting those 16-to-1 gears is going to be a 25K Neo motor. Now, Lancer Tactical has said that a brushless motor version is going to be coming to the market in the future. However, as of right now, they're sticking to the 25K Neo motor, mainly to keep the price of this replica down. They want it to be more of an affordable replica for beginners and other players in the industry, and not a very high-end replica in the sense of the price tag itself. So just keep in mind, this 25K 25K motor, although it is putting a lot of work behind this thing and making it perform really well, they are still improving upon it in the future, and there will be more Gen 4s or Gen 5s, however they decide to label them, coming in the future with different internal parts. So just make sure you check the list of internal parts and see what all is coming with the replicas when you order them, because Lancer Tactical is always working on improving them and adding new parts and new upgrades, different MOSFETs, different motors, and things of that nature. So just double check what you're getting, but the Valiant editions are going to have the 25K Neo motor as well as the 16:1 gears. And then back here, it is wired to DINs. As I said, if you open up your buffer tube here, you will have your battery wiring. It's going to come from the factory wired to DINs. You have a very long wire cable, which is something that I like particularly. I just like having extra room to work with. This can make cable management a little bit harder back here if you have extra long wires on your batteries as well, but just know that you do have plenty of space to get a battery to fit in here. It is a mil-spec buffer tube, so as long as you get your long style or stick lipos, you will be able to fit them in. They recommend running an 11-1 in this replica. And then all the way in the back here in your buffer tube, you are going to have your Phillips head screw, which will allow you to remove your buffer tube and reveal your quick change spring system. So these replicas do have quick change spring systems, which is something that I always love to see. Being able to change your spring on the field is always a great option. I will say though, however, that these replicas chrono differently out of the box depending on the length that you get them. I chronoed the 13-inch at closer to 400 FPS, more built for an outdoor field. The 9.5-inch was a little bit kind of sitting in the middle, and then our 7.5-inch version was the lowest at around 340 to 350 FPS, sitting right in that CQB range. So each of these have been purpose built with the idea of running them on the field out of the box, whether that be CQB or outdoor, depending on the length. So depending on where you want to play with your replica, I would recommend taking a look at the different lengths for that FPS variant. But of course, we have the quick change spring system. So if you want to run the long one inside or the short one outdoors, you can do that very simply by just changing the spring out of the gearbox with the quick change system that they have back there. So that is a great feature. I'm also very happy to see that they are kind of building the FPS around the player that's going to purchase the replica. That's something that I always like to see. It really makes me think that they have the customer in mind when they're building a replica like this. So with all that in mind, I will say if this is something you're interested in, Lancer Tactical has a great video with Eddie Valiant where they talked about the replicas and he kind of gave his opinions on what he wanted when he was working in collaboration with them on these. Let me know what you guys think of the Lancer Tactical Gen 4 series as a whole, whether that be the Valiant editions or any of the other ones that they're releasing. Let me know what I should review next. Thank you guys so much for sticking around till the end. Make sure you subscribe. It helps us out a lot. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.